members, welcome to another edition of Locked In with Kim. I am very happy to be joined today by my good friend, Ben Keddie, who is a commercial realtor in the area and a former FAAR board member. So Ben, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you and your family holding up?
We're making the best of it. It's not ideal, but we're making the best of it for sure.
So I'm sure in your family, as in mine too, the virus sort of dominates what we talk about now. We can't go to the playground because of the virus. We can't see our cousins because of the virus. When I told Ellie, my 4-year-old daughter, the other day she couldn't play with Play-Doh, she said, "Does it have the virus?" No, it does not.
You've gone too far.
Everything we talk about now is related to the virus. So it's certainly impacted the psyche of our family. But what about the psyche of investors in the commercial real estate market? What are you seeing?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head for me. I wish I could have a conversation, business or otherwise, without Corona being, the main emphasis of the conversation. But, it's interesting to try and see what is happening, but then to the best of our ability, guess. And it's nothing more than a guess as to what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And for me, and I think a lot of people, it's, unless you're personally affected by the virus itself, it becomes difficult to prevent kind of separating, I almost use the word quarantine, but separating the health issues from the economic issues. Certainly all the economic issues are completely driven by the health issues, but for most people, it's, okay, the virus is out there. How do I keep my doors open? How do I keep my people on staff? What do I do with this investment? And it's very difficult to plan any of those financial moves, especially the real estate moves, not knowing how long this virus is going to go on. And so now I'm being interrupted by a 4-year-old. So trying to be productive and efficient amidst a 4-year-old interrupting, "Can you get out of here? I'll see you in a minute." It's difficult. So, like the psyche of the investor, of all of our listings, the investment properties are doing the best. I don't have any, net leased restaurants for sale. I think that would probably be a pretty quiet listing to have right now. But industrial buildings, even the office buildings, the well-diversified retail strip centers, the grocery-anchored shopping centers, those are all doing very well. Investors still have mounds of cash out there. Like one of the challenges we had leading up to this was there was so much demand for good investment properties that the cap rates had really compressed, pricing had gone up, and people were probably stretching some of their investment criteria, what sort of a deal they would get into. And for a lot of folks, they were starting to say, it's getting too pricey. I'm just going to hang on to my cash and wait for a better opportunity. And those people, I think, will be the heroes coming out of this, because you probably will see some panic sells. You'll probably see some distressed sales. And the people that had cash are going to be in a position to reap the benefits of that. So it's anybody's guess really what's going to happen. Like you, I get invited to tons of webinars and tons of articles where this person or this company is telling me what their COVID response is and what they think the impact and implications are going to be. And it changes probably every 48 hours when new information comes out. So I try not to listen to too much of that.
I know, right? So you've been in this business for quite a while. What's your opinion on the resiliency of the local retail sector? I think retail is what I worry about the most, right? That I'm going to go downtown in 4 months and my favorite places aren't going to be there anymore. What's your opinion on that?
One of the things that really got me nervous early on in this was recalling a study, and I can't remember the exact numbers now, but it was something like 78% of Americans can't withstand a $500 emergency or something along those lines. And I think it might have been like 40 or 50% of households making north of $150,000 were still, basically going paycheck to paycheck, maybe even going a couple bucks in the hole every month. And then you start assuming that type of fiscal prudence or lack thereof transcends into how these small businesses get managed. And you can appreciate that if somebody's been shut down since early March, it's going to be very, very difficult to hang on. Generally speaking, like most large, well-run companies, would be fairly irresponsible to have enough cash to have 70% worth of revenues cut over a 2, 3, 4 month period. Because then that money wouldn't have been earning anything. Cash was earning zero before. So it would have been very, very difficult for most folks to have plan for something like this. So, as bad as it is, I think that there will be a lot of those vacancies pop up, evictions, there will be foreclosures, there will be bankruptcies. Certainly it's somewhat reassuring that the federal government seems to go to no end to try and help these businesses, large and small, and to kind of shore up these cash flow issues. But, that Paycheck Protection Plan, most of the money is already accounted for. I think independent contractors were just allowed to start signing up as of last Friday, and the money is almost all spoken for. And apparently the politicians kind of can't come together on adding additional money to those coffers, and the money's not here yet. I mean, I don't know how much faster anybody could have expected them to roll that out. So not casting blame, but it's going to be difficult for that money to get in the hands of the right people fast enough to avoid some of this. But admittedly, I was thinking, I don't know, maybe a month ago, that this was going to be a bloodbath for in the real estate world. And you started hearing more information and trying to as best you could in my simple mind anyhow, kind of carrying this thing out. And the small business owner downtown can't afford to pay rent. So they call the landlord. Sorry, you can do whatever you want, but I can't afford to pay rent. And then the landlord either eats it, adds it onto the back of the lease term, lets them work it out of a 12-month period, but probably would end up going and calling their lender. Hey, sorry, my tenant's not paying. I can't pay you the mortgage this month. And it just kind of keeps going all the way back up until you hit the government's balance sheet. And everybody truly is in this together, unlike any catastrophe or crisis we've ever faced before. Everybody is in this together. Everybody is taking a bite of the, we're going to use a bad word, S-word sandwich. It's just a question of how big of a bite you're going to have to take and how well you can digest it. But everybody is playing a part in this. But I mean, back to the actual question. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of businesses that don't make it. But, you talk about American capitalism and, ingenuity and all those things. We will survive. We will get through this. And things will simply change. A lot of them maybe for the better. So it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, last question before we wrap up. What about the new projects that you see downtown? Drive down Williams Street and it's transformed already. Will this impact any of the financing streams for those projects?
A lot of those are so far into the process that it's good. I mean, if a developer went to a bank right now and said, hey, I've got this great idea, the bank's going to be pretty darn gun shy, will require a lot more equity into the deal than they would have before. Probably even more pre-leasing and really, really scrutinize whoever the tenants were and their income streams before releasing any funds. So I would think if a project hasn't already started, especially if it's a big, relatively risky development project, that's probably going to go on hold for a little bit. But, as an example, a small kind of data point, we haven't lost any real deals yet as a result of Corona. Even the development deals like land acquisition, I've got Prince William, but a multifamily deal, and their perspective is this is going to last some amount of time, but by the time we get through the whole rezoning process, start construction and delivering, our horizon is longer than what we believe the pandemic to be. Same thing with a new retail shopping center, be grocery anchored locally. Their perspective is the same. Grocery stores are doing really, really good. Some of the out parcels that might have gone to a restaurant or some inline spacing, maybe to a nail salon or something like that, that becomes a little bit in question. But their thought, at least as of last week, is similarly, we won't be delivering this for 18 to 24 months. And so we've got to keep going. I mean,
yeah.
So
that kind of optimism,
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's refreshing to hear. Any toilet paper only stores opening in the next few weeks? Because, getting kind of low.
I think that fad may pass us by pretty quick. So I don't know if somebody can pop up quick enough or at least, stock the stores.
Right.
That's going to be the biggest challenge. But yeah, I mean, I think you're being facetious, obviously, but I think that there certainly will be a lot of those. I mean, what we're doing now, Zoom, you can see that they're doing very, very well. There's plenty of other companies who are kind of filling these inefficiencies.
Sure.
So the sector that I would have a little bit more concern over long term, and I don't know how much it'll really hit us as much as a major core market, but for the most part, if you could kind of separate being a little bit slower because of the virus, I think most companies are operating more efficiently remotely than they would have imagined. I mean, what we're doing now was a trend people had thought were going to be 15, 20 years down the road. And certainly this crisis has kind of greatly accelerated that. Yeah, so I think more people might say, okay, you know, more of my workforce can work from home. I'll save that expense. And then in the event we have something like this again, it's easier, more fluid to pull back on salaries and bonuses and all that is than to have to go to your landlord and try and get some sort of reprieve on your rent. And so I could see footprints like the average, you know, office square footage per employee is somewhere like 180 to 200. Maybe that starts to change a little bit because you've got fewer bodies in there. You try and pack them in a little tighter than before. Have more rotating desks. So I think that will be a trend that'll change. Yeah, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, absolutely not. I think it's almost been sort of surprising how quickly we've all transitioned to working from home and doing so quite effectively. I know you have the random child that runs into a Zoom meeting, but you know, eventually they'll go back to school and this model can still be effective for a lot of folks. So, well, Ben, thank you so much.
I think we're going to be okay.
Great to have you. Yes, I think so too. Thank you for bringing some optimism to my Locked In series. And I look forward to seeing you in person sometime on the other side of this.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Well, thanks for doing this. This is a great series. Good job.
Thank you very much. All right. Bye-bye.